in investing in marketable securities, you can change your mind tomorrow and sell if you feel you've made a mistake. When you buy a business, we buy businesses to keep. So our margin of safety is not in the price we pay. It's in crossing the threshold of being virtually certain that we're buying into a business that has durable competitive advantage, one with good economics, and we're buying in with people who have a passion for the business and who are going to run it the same way the year after they sold to us that they ran it the year before. So our margin of safety gets more into qualitative characteristics than the quantitative aspects that you're probably referring to in terms of the Ben Graham standard of buying a business for. He would say buy a stock. If you think a stock is worth $10, don't pay $9.90 for it, but pay $8 or something like that. When you're buying businesses, it's a different criteria. You're buying to keep, and you better make sure that you're buying both a business that you're going to like 10 or 20 years from now and a management that you're going to love 10 or 20 years from now. We don't look for specific sectors. We do look for businesses that I can understand. Now, when I say understand, that means where I feel that I have a high degree of confidence in my ability to see what they're going to look like 5, 10, 20 years from now. It isn't that I don't understand, say, the software products in general of a Microsoft, but I don't know how that industry is going to develop over 10 or 20 years. I didn't know that Google was going to come along in terms of search or all kinds. So anything that's rapidly developing, that has lots of change embodied in it, by my definition, I won't understand. It may do wonders for society. It may have what appears to be a very bright future, but I don't bring anything to that game where I know, not only I don't know more than the other fellow, I don't know as much as the other fellow in evaluating what the industry will look like in 10 years. So the things I look at businesses that are reasonably easy to evaluate where their products, how they will fit into the economic picture, how their economics will look in a 5 or 10 or 20 year period. I mean, to take an extreme example, I can understand Nestle, it's obviously, and you can understand it. Anybody that's had any experience in business can look at that company and figure out in a general way where it will be in 5 or 10 years. And we're looking, Nestle isn't going to be on the list, but we're looking for businesses like that are quite understandable. We favor the businesses where we really think we know the answer. If a business gets to the point where we think the industry in which it operates, the competitive position, or anything is so chancy that we can't really come up with a figure, we don't really try to compensate for that sort of thing by having some extra large margin of safety. We really try to go on to something that we understand better. So if we buy something like See's Candy as a business or Coca-Cola as a stock, we don't think we need a huge margin of safety because we don't think we're going to be wrong about our assumptions in any material way. And there are times when we've been able to buy wonderful businesses at a quarter of what they're worth. But you don't see those sort of things very often. And does that mean you should sit around and hope they come back for 10 or 15, wait 10 or 15 years? That's not the way we do it. If we can buy good businesses at a reasonable valuation, we're going to keep doing it.
So, Charlie, where did this thinking about investing, that you don't buy cheap bargains, but you look for really good companies, come from?
I have a habit in life, which is I look at it and I observe what works and what doesn't. And I'd seen so many idiots get rich in easy business. So Charlie, naturally, I wanted to be in an easier business.
Charlie, it was very interesting to me when I first met Charlie. He had a number of clients. His father had a number of clients. And he had thought about the businesses of each one of those clients probably in a much more perceptive way than most of them have thought about them themselves. I mean, he was incapable of not thinking through what the realities of the situation were, and what could be done about it, and he just analyzed things.
What would work and what wouldn't, and why. It's so simple.
So what are a couple of those early investments that were reflective of this new philosophy of buying really good companies?
Well, in terms of in terms of stocks, something like American Express would have been that had gotten some trouble, but it was a wonderful business. And there were some others that, in terms of buying the entire business, I probably didn't realize what a wonderful business our first insurance purchase was, but I knew it was a good business. The first real business we bought that way was See's Candy. I mean, it was really an outstanding business, and I still had enough elements from my past that I really didn't want to pay the last few $1 million. And
Few million, you didn't want to pay the last 25,000.
Yeah, and Charlie reminded me that I was slipping back into the Stone Age again, and got me to move.
So let's talk a little bit about your philosophy of managing companies. Berkshire Hathaway does not buy companies that have bad managers, right? Which is a little bit unusual. I mean, a lot of people like to buy good companies with bad managers and then replace them.
We tried.
You don't do that.
We tried it, and with the predictable results. And life is so much more fun this way too. I mean, who wants to spend their life trying to change people from their natural approaches?
You want to ruin your life, spend it trying to change your spouse.
Yeah.
It's really stupid.
Yeah.
It's just...
Marrying somebody to change him is crazy, and I would say hiring somebody to change him is just as crazy.
Yeah.
And becoming partners with them to change him is crazy.
Warren had always used a phrase I really liked. He said, "We make silk purses out of silk."
Yeah, forget the sow's ears.
We don't know how to make silk purses out of sow's ears.
Never will.
He writes, in a period of high inflation, which particular businesses owned by Berkshire Hathaway will perform the best, and which will perform the worst, and why?
Well, the businesses that will perform the best are the ones that require little capital investment to facilitate inflationary growth and that have strong positions that allow them to increase prices with inflation. We have a candy business, for example, and the value of the dollar since we bought that candy business has probably fallen at least 85%, I would say, 80 to 85%. And that candy business sells 75% more pounds of candy than it did when we bought it, but it has 10 times the revenues, and it doesn't take a lot more capital. So that kind of a business, any business that has enough freedom to price to offset inflation and doesn't require commensurate investment or a huge investment to support it, will do well. Businesses like our utilities, which get, in effect, a bond-like return, but require, if you're going to build a generating plant and it costs twice as much per kilowatt hour of capacity, and all you're going to get is a fixed return, and yields on bonds go up, perhaps dramatically if you get high inflation, is not going to do that well in an inflationary period, just because it has certain aspects of a bond-like investment, and bonds generally are not going to do well in inflation. Charlie?
Well, but like our insurance operations, our capital-intensive railroad business is certainly one of the best railroads in the world, and our utility operations are certainly one of the best utility operations in the world. And so it isn't all bad to be up there world class in your main businesses.
Our railroad, the government's talked about building a high-speed rail system in California. I think they're talking about 800 miles of track, and their estimated cost was about $43 billion, and estimated costs on constructions of things like that go up dramatically, much more often than they get reduced even by a minor amount. And of course we paid $43 billion, counting debt assumed, for a rail system which has 22,000 miles of main track and 6,000 plus locomotives and 13,000 bridges if you ever want to buy a bridge. So that the replacement value of that asset during inflationary already is huge, and it would grow dramatically. And the world, our country, will always need rail transportation. So it is a terrific asset to own. I'll just leave it at that.